like Jesus said, if you are of the world will love its own. And I think Tucker Carlson is certainly a man of the world who promotes the things of the world. And though he has faced maybe a little bit of a setback, a little bit of some consequences, he's going to be okay as far as falling into a tremendous amount of money to keep on promoting the kinds of things that he promotes. So why was Tucker Carlson fired from Fox News? Well, I've read a number of reasons. I'm sure you've heard and read a number of reasons too. And I think, of course, more than one thing can be true at the same time, especially in a story as big as this. Now, Fox News recently had to settle for almost $800 million during this lawsuit by Dominion over Fox News' coverage of the 2020 presidential election, where a number of their hosts aired claims of fraud and conspiracy committed by Dominion. And Dominion came seeking damages. Now, of course, during that period, Tucker Carlson was, as he continued to be up until his firing, Fox News' main man, their biggest host, their biggest frontman, and he engaged in promoting a number of those kinds of stories. Now, of course, it's fine for a journalist to get things wrong. You can't necessarily get sued every time you tell a incorrect story about some company. But what it was kind of damning for Tucker Carlson in particular, which contributed to Fox News seeing the evidence mounting against them and deciding that they had to settle for this, massive settlement, was that Tucker Carlson was recorded and in text and emails was known to have had a different opinion from what he was putting out on his show. It seemed that, behind the scenes, him personally did not like Donald Trump, did not like Donald Trump's supporters, and did not like the kinds of theories that they were putting out and what that was doing to the country. Yet, in spite of his own beliefs, he went out and pushed those kinds of stories as a journalist, pushed these defamatory stories in order to give his audience what they wanted to hear. And that, I think the legal term for that is called acting with malice, intentionally doing something incorrect. And that was, again, Fox News was not convicted of any wrongdoing, but they saw the evidence piling up and they did not want to go to trial. Therefore, they settled for, like $780 million, something in that area. Massive settlement. And, as big of a draw as Tucker Carlson is to the Fox News show, I think at this point they were starting to look at him as a liability. Now, this isn't the only lawsuit that Tucker Carlson's name is involved in. There are other lawsuits related to the Stop the Steal type stories that Fox News hosts promoted during 2021 and possibly later. And a more personal lawsuit from one of Tucker Carlson's producers, one of the producers of his own show, a woman accusing him of all kinds of general workplace misconduct, harassment, and just making things very difficult and unpleasant for her. She says, due to religion, gender, and disability. That's what's stated in the lawsuit. So it appears, maybe he, as a boss, made things a little tough on his employees, and there is one lawsuit coming up. Could possibly be other workplace-related lawsuits. Whatever the whole story is of the lawsuits, these things are piling up. Tucker Carlson seems to carry some blame for what is befalling Fox News in regards to these lawsuits, and therefore he is being seen more and more as a liability. So if on the one hand you are having to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars, you're maybe looking to cut costs, maybe the guy making $30-some million a year is a place to start cutting costs, especially if that guy is a big part of the reason why you're having to pay out those hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's kind of cost cutting off this liability, this guy who was causing trouble for your network, a little bit of revenge in there maybe, like, hey, let's, disciplinary action, we got to make an example of this, you don't do this kind of stuff to the company. You don't create these kind of problems for the corporation. If you do, you are not indispensable. Now, Tucker Carlson, I'm sure, is going to be all right. He is a very talented presenter, and he will have tremendous amounts of money thrown at him from many directions, I'm sure. Now, personally, I do not like Tucker Carlson's style. I do not like the kind of message he puts out on his show. I think a lot of what he says is incompatible with a Christian lifestyle and a Christian attitude toward life and a Christian attitude towards people you know, or strangers, or just people in general. A lot of the kind of very right-wing narrative in the country, which includes things like having a very low esteem of migrants, of people from the wrong kind of countries, not wanting them to be able to come into this country, and putting a lot of blame and fault on people simply based on where they are from, where they were born, their citizenship. Kinds of things that are pretty tough. I wouldn't like to be judged on things that I had never done simply on my place of birth, on my origin. Now, due to my citizenship, I have not faced a lot of discrimination, but there are people who, simply because of where they were born, are very limited in the possibilities that they have in their lives. And when they try to go to a richer, safer country, they are met with a lot of discrimination, not even allowed across the border in many cases, and seen as being a part of the problem that that country faces. And that kind of attitude is promoted very much by people like Tucker Carlson, and him being probably the biggest name, the biggest presenter in U.S. media. I think he bears a lot of the blame for some of the ungodly attitudes that are going around in the United States. Like Jesus said, if you are of the world will love its own. And I think Tucker Carlson is certainly a man of the world who promotes the things of the world. And though he has faced maybe a little bit of a setback, a little bit of some consequences with his previous rich and powerful employer, he's going to be okay as far as falling into a tremendous amount of money to keep on promoting the kind of things that he promotes and telling his audience the kind of things that they want to hear, that he is very willing to tell them in exchange for huge amounts of money. But now I also want to touch a little bit on just the dynamic of Tucker Carlson getting fired. Now, that's something that I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. Maybe you've been in a similar situation where you enjoyed doing something, you were felt that you had a place somewhere doing something with people that you trusted, within a structure that you wanted to continue in, and then somebody or some group of somebodies let you go, fired you, told you you were no longer wanted, excused you from your position, whatever the exact case may have been. You were no longer able to continue doing this thing that you liked doing with the people that you liked doing it with. And I'm sure, for someone like Tucker Carlson, in spite of him being tremendously rich and powerful, he has human emotions. I'm sure this causes some hurt for him, and he's going along thinking, what could have happened? What am I going to do now? We're all human. We all have similar reactions in these kinds of experiences, and I'm sure these kind of things have happened to you too. They've happened to me. Now, one very common reaction to a situation like this is to excuse ourselves, put the blame on other people, and tell ourselves that, well, I'm just going to double down, move on from this, get stronger, do better, and validate myself and my talents. Now, that's a reaction a lot of people have. I'm sure a very driven, professional, powerful person like Carlson would be thinking along those lines, and perhaps, again, something like this has happened to you, and perhaps you have thought along those lines. I just want to say that I think in a situation like this, it is good to take another approach. This could be something where the Lord is trying to show you something, where there's a time for you to get a little humble, get a little quiet, get a little introspective, and see what you can do better. How can you move on from this in a better way? Now, if you think someone else made mistakes, then, well, how can you learn from the mistakes of that other person, apply it to yourself and how you treat others? We always have an opportunity to treat other people the way that we would like to be treated. And that's like such an important commandment. It is the law of Jesus Christ. So if we can take an opportunity, take a situation, and do a little better in that way, I think that we can gain something from it, even if it was a tough experience for us in the first place. Perhaps it's better to slow down, humble ourselves, and see how we can help other people do better, rather than just think about how we can move on and do better ourselves. I hope that makes sense. I want to end this by reading a bit from Paul's epistle to the Romans. This is Romans chapter 15, where Paul, like he does in so many places in his epistles, helps us to have a good Christian attitude and perspective on life and what's important. He says, "Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. For even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproached thee fell on me. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the Scriptures, might have hope. Now the God of patience and consolation grant you to be like-minded one toward another, according to Christ Jesus, that ye may with one mind and one mouth glorify God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Wherefore, receive ye one another, as Christ also received us, to the glory of God." Well, thanks so much for watching. Please let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. Tell me if I got things right or if I got things wrong. Am I missing something? And I really look forward to talking to you again later. God bless you.